return to our 2024 Staff Regent election forum. This is always an important time in I think the life of staff at EKU. It's where we get to evaluate and consider our different representatives who actually have a seat on the Board of Regents and get to be a voice for EKU staff. So the EKU Staff Regent is a resource to all of us, to all EKU staff. And I'm glad that we all have a say in who fills that role. So today we have the opportunity to hear from both of our candidates, which we will introduce in turn. They each have about 10 to 15 minutes prepared to share with you. And then at the end, we have questions that we've collected from across campus as part of the registration for this event. But we will also be opening the floor to questions that you have right here, right now. So we'll probably alternate between both of those. So as you think of questions, even if it's a question I have on my list, even if it's a question you already submitted and you want to go ahead and raise your hand and throw it in there at the end question and answer session, you'd be more than welcome to. Each candidate would have a chance to respond to that question and a 2-minute cap on the response that they can give. So that's the outline for today. Are there any questions about that? Okay, so I want to kick us off by first introducing our first candidate for Staff Regent, Jeremiah Dorson. Jeremiah's journey with EKU began in 2004 when he was hired as a programmer analyst. Over the years, he has played a pivotal role in the university's growth and development, currently serving as the Executive Director of Applications, Infrastructure, and Security. Jeremiah brings over 2 decades of experience to his role. He takes great pride in ensuring the reliability and security of EKU's digital infrastructure. Beyond his professional responsibilities, Jeremiah is deeply committed to giving back to his community. Whether coaching youth sports or volunteering at his church, he is dedicated to nurturing talent and fostering growth. Additionally, Jeremiah has been a steadfast supporter of EKU's basketball teams for the past 15 years, proudly representing our university. Jeremiah finds his greatest joy in spending time with his family, his wife Jessica, who works in alumni engagement at EKU, and their 2 children are his constant support and sources of happiness. Together, they actively engage in community initiatives, strengthening their ties to Madison County. So let's welcome Jeremiah Dorson.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting that. So those that don't know me, Jeremiah Dorson. So I'm currently the Staff Regent here at EKU. Been serving for 3 years on your behalf. So today, I'm doing a little presentation instead of a speech, and it's just continuing our journey of progress and dedication. So let's go through this. Just a few things, continuing our journey because I represent you. I'll give you a little bit of information on my background and history at the university, why I chose, why I want to be Staff Regent and continue to be the Staff Regent, what we've accomplished in the last 3 years and where we can improve, and then my future goals in this role. Where are we now versus where are we headed in the future? So if you'll bear with me a little bit, and then why I deserve your vote. So I want to make sure, I know a vote is earned. I want to make sure I earn your vote next week. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll answer questions here in a little bit. So my background and history, before I start on this, first, I want to say just thank you to Staff Council and to Zach and the Election Credentials Committee. As a former member of that committee who's had to do this work to organize this, get all this out and about, there's a lot of hard work and effort. So thank you to Staff Council for your continued advocacy for staff. Thank you for all your all's hard work. What else? Let's see. So my name's Jeremiah Dorson. My title is Executive Director of Applications, Infrastructure, and Security. I've been in IT for the past 20 years. As Zach had mentioned, I started as a programmer analyst. It's almost 20 years to the date. I started May 26, 2004, straight out of college. I came straight from Brick College, straight into programmer analyst role here at EKU. And then I've worked my way up through the ranks. I was a programmer, became a senior programmer, where I worked on the human resource system, also on the finance system for the university in Banner. Became a database administrator, where I was over the security implementation of the entire database for the whole university. The SIS, the financial system, the alumni system, human resources, you name it, it had it. We had to keep it patched and upgraded. But again, I mentioned my education is Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics with a minor in Computer Science from Brick College. So my time in college meant a lot to me, and that's why I chose a career in higher education, because education matters. Education changed my life. Roles and responsibilities. So former roles, as a former member of staff council, I still serve as an ex officio on that committee where I attend every meeting. I'm active in most all their events they have if I'm available. I served as the former chair of the Elections and Credentials Committee, as I mentioned before, and was a member of the Policy Committee. So I know Mr. Trevor George is in attendance and he chairs that committee currently. I'm a current member of the EKU Board of Regents serving on your behalf. And as of yesterday, I got nominated. I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. Named to the executive committee for the Board of Regents, which is important. That means you have a seat now at all of the Board of Regents meetings. Before I was not part of the executive team. I'm currently on the Finance Committee where we've reviewed the budget April 1st and May 1st. And that's a new committee that I was just recently assigned to by Lynn Ty, who chairs that committee. Also a member of the ad hoc committee on the presidential and board evaluation. So not only is the board entrusted with governing the university, we also, and I think this needs to be said, what is the role of a regent? So we, as a regent defined by KRS statute, is we control and hire one person at this university. And it's not a control, and it's all of us as one. None of us act alone. And that is the president or the chief executive officer of the university. So do we have some power influence at the VP level? Yes, but most of that is my communication to the president, building that relationship with him so that I can have some influence on the decisions of the university to make sure that things are going well for staff, that we're headed in the right direction, that we're retaining our top talent here at the university. So why do I want to be staff regent? I need more work. No, I'm just kidding. I don't need more work. I have plenty of work, but I have a passion for EKU. What does that mean? I'm a first-gen college student, like most of you all, like the majority of our students here, right? Education changed my life. It changed my life for the better. My first job I had was more than my father made in his entire career, just because I had that degree. So that means a lot to me. I like to advocate for staff. When I came into this role as a member of staff council, for those that remember or have been here for a while, there weren't any raises. We had a dry period. We were cutting. We scraped bone. We cut until we couldn't cut anymore. And not only that, we were stuck on old salary scales. And we still are, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But we've come a long way in the last 3 years when it comes to salary and benefits at this university. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit too. I want to make sure our time off that we have, the 2 weeks at Christmas, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, spring break. I want to make sure all that was made permanent, and it was. There's no reason to go to the president's convocation anymore. We already know the time off we have, right? You may, most of the people, that's the reason why they went to the convocation. They wanted to know what days off we had, right? I mean, you can raise your hand, nod your head. Most people did that. But we've codified those now. So that's part of the benefits package when you onboard here at EKU. And it makes it's a differentiator between us and other colleges and universities. We want to make sure we become the employer of choice. We want to be able to hire and retain the top talent. And we're not there yet, but we're getting close. So that's advocacy for staff. Strategic vision. I drive for continuous improvement and innovation. I want us to find new ways to be better at EKU. We've done that in the past few years. Book smart. We continue to drive innovation. We continue to be the school of opportunity for these kids in our service area, Southeast Kentucky, Central Kentucky, a place where they can come get a degree and feel welcome. Also, collaboration. I want to foster a collaborative environment among faculty, staff, and administration. I have a good knack and ability to network with people. And by networking with people, that builds trust amongst that group. And if you can build trust, you can build influence. And it's not until you have that trust that you can build influence and have a say at this university. So, you know, also have built trust amongst the faculty region. Jason and Marion and I are pretty close. I've been close with some of the SGA. And so that shared vision or that shared governance amongst the faculty, staff, and students means something. And that's why staff council is so important as well. So what have we accomplished in the last 3 years? 4 straight years of annual raises comprised of $17.2 million. Now, I know 2% is not enough in a time of rapid inflation, but I can tell you this, it's more than we got the previous 4 years. And so I continue to fight every time each month I have a conversation with the president. He goes, can we skip the compensation conversation? Because he always knows that's the first thing I bring up. Compensation, make sure we're competitive, making sure we're in range with Coupa data. Meaning, how do we compare to the University of Kentucky? How do we compare to our other Western Kentucky, our other sister schools, ones that compare to us? Pushing to get to the new salary scales and keep them updated. So we got new salary scales. I don't know if you all know that, but there are new ones. We're not there yet. We have 143 people on that. That's part of that compression inversion. Those $500,000 we've done the last 3 years. We're continuing to invest in that. We're continuing to push the university to new heights. It's our goal, and I think FLSA will push us to that mark this year if it goes through. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. Work environment improvements. You know, I talked about this a little bit, so I won't harp on it too long. Made permanent spring break Wednesday before Thanksgiving, all your time off. That's an important benefit here for us. It's what makes us competitive in a time when salaries are not that competitive. I understand there's more work to be done there. 6 weeks of paternal leave for benefit employees, huge for the university. And policy and advocacy. There are many folks that you all don't know about who reach out to me. I know they reach out to Trevor and staff council as well, but we've had some policy revisions based on conversations with me where we've not met the state statute or the requirement on some policy. And so we don't make those public all the time. You'll see them come through in the 10-day comment period. But most of the time I go straight to university council and working with Trevor and Lauren Keeler to make sure that those get pushed through in the right way. So future goals, obviously continued salary advancement. I know that's little, I'm sorry. I've got a lot I want to do. So salary advancement, achieving new salary scales, ensuring compliance with the FLSA. So what does that mean for those that don't know? FLSA is the minimum requirement to be an exempt employee. That number is 43,888 come July 1 this year. That's not the one that's going to be the problem. We can get there as a university. January 1, 2025, that number jumps to $58,000 a year. So the university has some decisions to make on who stays exempt versus who turns into hourly. And so that's being worked on. I can tell you currently there's a plan in place or a plan being worked on. So, and that should come out very soon. Investing in staff professional development. When we've had budget cuts in the past, the first thing they cut is what? Professional development, right? So we need to continue to invest in professional development. Staff council did a great job this year. Our first annual professional development conference we had right here on January 8th, wasn't it, or 6th, something like that, where we had over 200 participants. We're going to build on that, but not only that, investing in budgets in your area so that you can go to conferences, so that you can become a better employee for the university. That is big, not only for you as an employee to grow here at the university, but for the university to continue to grow. Building a strong workforce by retaining top talent. The president a couple weeks ago asked me, what's my number one concern? And I said, retaining our top talent. Because it is. We need to make sure that the good ones stay. We either coach you up and keep you here and pay you your work. If not, there's greener pastures. We understand that. And that's a hard act to balance because of the next thing I want to talk about, and that's sustained financial practices. Being a fiduciary for the university, meaning I have 2 minutes left. Being a good fiduciary for the university, making sure we can afford this, because the last thing we want to do is bump everybody's salaries and then have to cut the next year. Right? So we need to do it strategically. We need to do it sustainably so that we can continue to keep you all here. And the last one, I support the exploration of funding streams that benefit staff and students. We only have 5 revenue sources here at the university. All right, 5. Most of that lives in tuition and fees from students. We are only 25% state funded now. Now they did increase that this past legislative session, but it's still not enough over the years. That used to be opposite. We used to be funded 75% to 25% by state legislature. So continuing to find revenue streams is important. And then advocacy and communication. Ensure clear communication channels exist between staff, administration, and the board on key issues. I hope you all know that I'm available anytime to listen to your concern, to make sure that I'm advocating for what you want, not what I want. And I do that. I know salaries is the number one thing on the list because I read the surveys that go out, right? That's number 1, salaries. Number 2, time off, right? Why I deserve your vote? And then I'll finish with this. I have a proven track record. I have a commitment to excellence. I continue to fight on your behalf with the president. Sorry, I can't find my name. I continue to fight for your behalf. I'm transparent. I'm open and honest with you. If there's something we can do, I'm going to tell you. If there's something we can't do because of a certain reason, I'm going to tell you. The last one is I've already built the relationships. There's no need to start over with building relationships. I could call Mike Eves right now. He'd answer the phone, chairman of the board. I could call Alan Long right now and he would answer the phone. Lynn Ty, Laura Babbage, all of them on the board. And that's what it takes. If I can get 6 votes, I can get anything done at this campus. So thank you.
Sorry, chairman. All right, your presentation needs to load. Okay. So as I said earlier, we are fielding questions after both candidates have a chance to present. So just be sure that you're taking careful notes and that you're able to call back up the questions that you've had now. And again, both candidates would have the opportunity to answer any question that's asked. But now as we move into the second half of our presentation section, I want to introduce to you our newer candidate here. So we've got Jennifer White. Jennifer currently serves as the Director of Education Abroad at EKU, where she passionately helps students pursue their dreams. With a BS in Geology from Sul Ross State University and an MA in English from EKU, Jennifer's educational journey reflects her diverse expertise. She is also certified by the Forum on Education Abroad, further enhancing her ability to support students in their academic pursuits. Beyond her role at EKU, Jennifer has dedicated 10 years to serving on various boards, including those of multiple education abroad organizations. Her commitment to international education is evident through her past and present board membership, including the Kentucky Institute for International Studies and the Cooperative Center for Study Abroad. Jennifer's contributions to EKU have been recognized through several honors, including the prestigious EKU President's Excellence in Innovation Award in 2023. Her induction into EKU's chapter of Phi Kappa Phi Honor Society and Omicron Delta Kappa Honor Society further underscores her dedication to academic excellence. Throughout her tenure at EKU, Jennifer has held roles such as Graduation Compliance Specialist and Associate Registrar for Academic Records. Her motivation stems from witnessing the transformative impact of EKU on students' lives, driving their purpose to help them envision possibilities for themselves. So let's welcome Jennifer White.
Thank you. And I want to thank staff council for all of the work that they have done on this election and for organizing this forum today. And I want to thank all of you who are here, both in person and online. This has been quite an experience, and I've been so happy to participate in this campaign. My full-time service to the university is listed as 17 and a half years, but my love affair with Eastern Kentucky University goes back farther than that. Kentucky had never even been a blip on my radar 21 years ago when my husband applied for a faculty position here in the geology program. I didn't know anything about the state. I was not even aware of how the correct pronunciation for Appalachia or Louisville should sound. I had never seen the Kentucky Derby. I had never tasted bourbon. I did not know what bluegrass was when I was driving down the road and could see it in the fields. And the only times I'd even been on horses, I was just lucky enough not to break my neck on the way back down to the dirt. So when my husband was asked to come for a job interview here at EKU, I obviously wanted to come along with our 6-year-old son and find out if this was a place that we could envision living and raising a family together and calling home. So I tagged along. And while my husband was doing the faculty interview things, my son and I explored campus. Obviously, we rubbed Daniel Boone's toe for luck, as you must. We played in the ravine. We explored the campus beautiful. We poked our noses into every single building that we could find. And, at the end of the day, this felt like a place that could be home. So my husband that year was fortunate enough to get 2 job offers, one from EKU and one from a university in North Carolina. And that's a good problem to have when you are on the job search, right? And you are desperately trying to provide for your family and find a career home. But the choice could not have been any easier for us because Eastern just felt like home from the beginning. So we moved here in 2003. And I right away started taking advantage of the staff tuition waiver, which many of you in this room have taken advantage of. Many of our staff have used that through the years, and it's a benefit which I am committed to protecting if I'm elected regent. My full-time service, though, started in 2006 when I was hired in the registrar's office as the university's graduation compliance specialist, which is really a fun role. I used to compare it a little bit to being a wedding planner for graduation ceremonies. Lots and lots of fun. But it was not long after I began that full-time role that I experienced a hardship in my life that is, pretty difficult. My precocious, smart, funny 9-year-old son was diagnosed with cancer. And cancer is I don't have to tell any of you what that's like. Even if you have never had cancer in your immediate family, the thought of it being your child, that I think strikes all of us. So obviously I was not a higher level employee. And at that time at EKU, only higher level employees had laptops that they could take home, right? So I worried, am I going to be able to keep my job? But every single individual at EKU was there for me. The compassion, the love, the caring spirit that I experienced really helped us through what otherwise would have been such a lonely, scary time. Everyone was here for us. And that feeling of love and support from Eastern is something that I want all employees to feel, obviously without the cancer piece. But it's just so important. Further though, it was EKU's health insurance that helped us through that time with what otherwise would have been insurmountable hospital bills. It's no joke, rising healthcare costs. And even back then, the hospital bills were quite significant, but that EKU insurance is certainly a wonderful benefit. My son made it, by the way. And then he went on to be the second member in our family to utilize that EKU staff tuition waiver, earning a bachelor's degree in geology. In these stories, I am trying to explain a little bit about how I first fell in love with EKU and the Campus Beautiful, and how I fell in love with the people whose care and compassion and kindness just lifted me up from a dark place. But also I want to explain how EKU has given me so much. It's thanks to EKU's staff tuition waiver policy that I was able to afford to come back for my master's degree. And my son was able to afford to get his bachelor's degree without taking on too much debt. It's thanks to EKU's talented, caring faculty who shaped me and really helped mold me into the person that I am today. And it's thanks to EKU's employee benefits that we were able to afford to deal with a situation like cancer and come out as with my son a survivor and our family not deeply in debt from it. And it's thanks to EKU's people who lifted me up and helped me throughout my journey. And you see, one thing that big universities and big businesses frequently forget is that it doesn't matter how much we love the university. It doesn't matter how much we agree with the mission statement, how much we agree with the strategic plan, because at the end of the day, ultimately, the reason we work is because we have to pay our bills, we have to support our loved ones, we have to support ourselves. We're working because we need the health insurance, because we need the retirement benefits, and because we want to make our lives and our families' lives a little bit better. And so if we're lucky enough to have a job where we get to give back and make a difference in others' lives, then, that's, all you can ask for. That's a huge plus. And that is what I found at EKU. That's why our eternal colonels feel as strongly about EKU in the local community as they do. And that's why our alumni are passionate about coming back, about giving back. They want EKU to continue to be a school of opportunity for new generations, as it was a school of opportunity for them and for me. In my current role as the Education Abroad Director, everyone associates my job with the beautiful photos of our students in exotic places all over the world, in front of, landmarks that you recognize. And that's just the part the public sees. In addition to working with students, the larger part of my job is behind the scenes and involves working with units across campus, as well as with alumni and donors, external agencies, international universities, sometimes government agencies. I work with university policies, state and federal policies, international policies. I work with risk management and insurance, travel regs and laws for multiple countries. I work with student health and wellness issues. I work with student disciplinary issues. I work with faculty professional development, event planning, program planning and management, budgeting and finance for international programming. And all of those skills could be of use on the board. I'm the person who takes the 2 a.m. phone call when one of our students has been in an accident halfway around the world. And then I'm the person who has to figure out how to fix that and how to make it better. I've served on various boards and advisory committees. I get along well with others and I love people, so I'm good at collaborating. It's frequent for me to be the strong voice asking questions. I have strong determination and a critically thinking mind, and I have never been intimidated by those who outrank me. I was one of the founding members of EKU's COVID task force in 2020, when it was mostly just me and Brian Mackinnon trying to figure out whether or not the world was closing and how soon we should bring the students home. Those days were a challenge, but together we succeeded. I know that due to the nature of what I do, I would bring a wider reaching perspective to the board than ever before. And as part of my decision to represent you as staff regent, I researched the history of this position. It was interesting to me to find that the staff regent position has only existed since 1994. And before that, staff did not have a voice on the board. Since then, EKU staff regents have all been gentlemen from IT, facility services, and public safety. And while those units form a very important framework on which the rest of the university operates, I think it would be time to have a person in the staff regent role who's been in a student-facing unit. Students are why we're here, and my career has been for and about student opportunities, for and about helping others through uncertainty, change, and the unfamiliar, like the environment facing our staff today. That's why I'm the ideal candidate to be your voice on the board, and I ask for your vote and the opportunity to serve. The challenges that we face today feel new. We're expected to make miracles happen, and we have so many responsibilities. We do more with less. I've been talking to staff, and the issues impacting morale should be heard. Some people no longer feel that we're all in this together, and I want to fix that. The last raise, which was presented by the President's Council and approved by the board, was tiny and was eaten up by rising health insurance costs. Empty positions remain unfilled for extended periods of time, saving the university money on payroll cost while causing incredible burnout for those staff members who remain behind and have to wear multiple hats to try to keep an understaffed office functioning effectively. Throughout campus, you can feel that sinking burnout and that morale problem. Staff are pressed to give back for Giving Day, to volunteer for various events, and they're feeling fewer incentives to give back. What do people want? They want to feel appreciated and respected and valued. Support, awareness of the struggles, increased compensation, and protection of our benefits. I hear these concerns and I share them. And if elected, I will take these to the board and strongly represent our needs. I want EKU to have a position of strength and health so that we can serve our students while making work rewarding and meaningful for our staff. EKU has given me so much, and I feel that it is my mission to give back to EKU and support, and I want staff to feel the level of support that I have felt throughout my career here. EKU's people are the diamonds in our crown, and we must work to make this school of opportunity once again be the employer of choice in this region. I believe that my collaborative spirit, my work ethic, as well as my previous experience being a strong voice on boards, can allow me to help EKU through this next chapter. I would be honored to serve. EKU can and must be a top employer, and we have work to do to make this happen. Allow me to be your advocate, your voice, and your regent. Thank you.
So my team's going off and I'm on do not disturb. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, thank you both so much for your presentations and the time that you've invested in all of that. And just, laying it out to us all, kind of what motivates you and your platform. So we do have questions that were submitted as part of the registration for this. I know that we're joined by quite a few people online. Do we have a number? You know,
Yes, 50 right now.
okay, and you are by at least 50 people online. So out of respect for that, we'll start with a question asked as part of the registration process for those who follow the rules. And then we will pivot to someone in this physical space, and then we'll pivot to someone online, and then back and forth. We would like to keep this Q&A session to as close to a half hour as possible. So we're not here all day. But each candidate will have about 2 minutes to respond should you need that time. You don't have to take all that time, and you can also pass on a question that doesn't necessarily apply to you. If you wouldn't mind, whenever it gets to about a minute, just flip that around. Okay, so starting off with one of the questions submitted beforehand, just in a random order, literally. Atmospheric noise. I used a random number generator. I'm nothing if not fair. What strategies will you use to enhance representation and voice in decision-making processes? Jeremiah, since you went first presenting, I'll give you first to that question again. So what strategies will you use to enhance staff representation and voice in decision-making processes?
So one of the strategies, and I talked about this a little bit, is my ability to network. So making sure that I'm out and about at certain events where staff can come up to me and talk to me about the issues that concern them. So being out around campus as part of the IT and the area that I work in, I deal with a lot of folks. I get a lot of questions, and it's during that time and those questions or those meetings that they also stop me and say, hey, these are the things on my mind. So networking, making sure I network close with the other board members, with staff council, making sure I'm at all their meetings, being there for their events, and just showing up to the certain events on campus where staff tend to be at, so that I can hear your issues and concerns, so that I can take them to the board and advocate on your behalf.
Thanks, Jeremiah. And Jennifer?
So I've been here almost 18 years, and I have had the good fortune to work in two very different offices that both share the same common threads, that they have to work with offices from all over campus. So I also do a great deal of networking and have a number of contacts on campus and talk to a great many people. But also through my years here, I have a wealth of institutional knowledge, and I am just, I've had some very unique experiences on some very diverse boards, and I feel that I would be extremely effective in that role.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right. And we have a question from our online.
We do.
And you can summarize the questions if they were asked kind of as a similar theme, but otherwise, first one person.
All right. So morale is a very important issue for our campus. What steps will you take to change the current atmosphere? Is it a priority for your mission as a staff regent?
And let's see, Jennifer, would you like to lead off this one? Just go back and forth.
So morale is an issue that has come up quite a bit as I've been campaigning, and I've been visiting as many offices as I can and talking to so many people, and several common threads come up regarding the morale issue. The one that I included in the earlier speech I gave, because it has been an interesting thing that's come up in so many conversations, is the fact that as positions are vacated and we have high turnover right now, they are left empty for extended periods of time while the university does save money on those payroll costs. And that is a problem, because then those hardworking staff who stay in those positions have to wear multiple hats for extended periods of time. And that's it's lonely, but it's also just very difficult emotionally and mentally when you're trying to keep an office functioning effectively on your own. And so this is a huge problem that needs to be addressed.
Thanks, Jennifer. And Jeremiah.
Yeah, so morale issues, I think, are known across campus as well. And I always ask people, the reason why there are morale issues is because we've fallen behind so far on the salary scales at this university. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we're still hiring people at 2.5%, 3% higher than what I hired in 2004. And so I brought that to the president. I brought that to the board. I've had countless meetings with the president discussing that, to the point that it's sometimes embarrassing the offers we make to people for the positions that we're trying to hire for, right? And I brought that to them. So as we work to get to this new salary scale, as we work to then keep it up to date. For those that don't know, that salary scale hasn't been updated since 2014, except in the past 2 years. And I'll continue to fight for that, because, you know, what happens is somebody leaves for greener pastures. You're left in a unit to do more work, double the work for the same pay. And then when you go out to try to hire somebody new, you either have 0 applicants or unqualified applicants. And then what's that entail? Turnover. And it's just an endless cycle. So while I agree morale is there, I also would like to say that sometimes you've got to know your why in that as well. Why are we here? We got to focus on the students, the changing of a generation, making sure their education is as cheap as possible, but also understanding that to keep the best and brightest talent here, we have to pay in the market to keep those folks here as well.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And I realized I got out of order that I suggested. So can I have a question from the room? Yes, sir.
So in the last year, there's been some decisions made by the university that have changed a lot of what we do as staff. And sometimes the timing seems to be poor on that. They come out of nowhere. How, as staff regent, would you work with the executive team, with the board of regents, to make it to where some of these widespread decisions that affect what we do on a day-to-day basis are communicated in a timely manner and are we're educated on these decisions and why they're made?
Yeah, it's a great point. I talked endlessly about communicating early and communicating often. You know, sometimes it takes multiple communications of the same subject or topic for it to sink in. I know specifically you're probably talking about the tuition waiver and the way we rolled that out a few years ago with those changes. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't even the right way to do it. In my opinion, we should have kicked that down the road a year, but it wasn't my decision. I can tell you that Dr. Scott and I fought that as hard as we could at both the staff regent level and the staff council chair level, to the point that it was a lot worse when it got to us. And we knocked it back from a 4-year repayment to a 2-year repayment. And then not only that, we messed up the communication piece on that. And I'm in the president's ear all the time. We got to communicate early. We got to communicate often, regardless if the news is good or bad, right? And that's the only way we can do it to keep staff engaged, so that they're not blindsided when it's time for one of these big decisions to hit campus. And I also talk about the Friday at 5 emails. Those are the worst. It's like all bad news comes out Friday at 4:30 or 5, right? Everybody here knows it. There's an email that comes out, it's bad. I'm like, forget that. That should be if it's going to be bad news, do it Monday morning at 8 a.m. Let's get a week to, suffer through it or whatever the bad news is, but let's all do it together, right? Be a shoulder for one another. So yes, I understand that. And I'm working to make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And Jennifer?
Transparency is huge, and transparency is key. I'm a strong believer in communication, and I always feel, especially with issues as the staff tuition waiver, as you were talking about, that it's very important to have the right voices at the table and the right people at the table fighting that fight. But making decisions with ample time to share those with people is always very important, and I agree with you.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, so see, and on a similar theme for my random selection of our pre-registered questions. This does say, if elected, how will you engage with staff and keep them informed? So Jennifer?
I love engagement. So that's a big part of what I do now as the Director of Education Abroad is engagement. And I work with, departments all over campus, both academic and other, but I feel strongly that it's so important that all of the constituents at a university know what's going on with the other constituents. And so I feel that every member of this university, should be having conversations with staff, with students, with faculty, and being aware. I am a people person and always have that communication. I strongly believe that it's one thing to say that you're going to always be open for people to email you, but open door policy would definitely be something that I would have if I'm elected staff regent. I would want staff to feel comfortable coming to talk to me about the issues going on campus. And if they aren't coming to talk to me, then I'm gonna go talk to them. It's wonderful to get up out of your chair sometimes and go see people where they are and get those answers and find out what's on people's minds.
Thank you. And Jeremiah?
So, as I've mentioned earlier, I'm active across campus, and not only do I work in IT, but I've been part of the game day staff in athletics for the past 15 years. And I wouldn't call that a job. I just call that my joy for athletics and events as a former athlete myself that helped get me through college. And so I see a lot of people there. I see a lot of people, not only at the university, but I see a lot of people in the community. See the mayors of different cities and state, or different cities in the county judge executive. I see those. So I engage staff wherever I can, whenever I can. Not only that, Microsoft Teams and technology has been great in the sense of you can reach me whenever. I think staff council knows I give them my cell phone number, my telephone number, my email address. And I'm always, most of the time, somebody just needs an ear to talk to, right? Somebody just wants somebody to have a chat about a subject or topic. And there are times that we can't make change or can't do anything about it, but I can at least talk them through why the decision was made and the reason why it was made. And sometimes the why matters there. So in terms of engagement, I'm active across campus. I think most folks know me. If not, I'll continue to get out and do more when I can. I can't have an open door policy because I'm behind the infamous orange doors, they call them. And so they're fobbed, but if you call me, I will come let you in and show you around. So there's nothing special back behind there. It's just standard IT policy, but I do get out and about now. I do have an office currently in the Whitlock building as well. So
Thanks, Jeremiah. All right, and sticking with my Patty.
There's no
There was no
questions.
questions online. Feel free online crowd, we still have some minutes, so if you do have anything you want to submit, you're welcome to, but I'll open it back up to you.
I'll ask the question.
Sure.
So with this position, it's obviously a voice for the staff. So if you can share some of the collaborative efforts recently that you've had with other departments or units on campus to really showcase, your involvement with other staff and that voice that we hope you will have as Regent.
Yes.
let's see, where can I begin?
Recent ones.
Recent ones, collaboration with other staff. So I was in staff council just this week, staff council executive meeting. Always a big proponent of what staff council does. Going back to the days, I know Miss Stephanie King here, she's the one who originally was a founding member of staff council. So here recently, staff council listening to the wants and needs of the university, making sure they're kept up to date on what's going on FLSA wise, what's going on budget wise. That's probably the most recent. again, listening to the concerns. And I know we keep repeating the same things over and over, but staff council, I think what else? I've had other engagements with the board outside of normal activities. We have some events where we meet with President's Council in a, off the cuff manner, I guess. Recently as well at graduation. This past Friday, where I got to see and talk to a lot of staff who were up in Georgetown, making sure that went off without a hitch. So there's been ample opportunities where I've been collaborating amongst other units across campus, and to the point that we even stayed and helped them stack up all their chairs at the end to try to get out of Alltech Arena in a timely manner, so we weren't charged an extra price to get out of there by meeting.
I love collaborating and reaching across the aisle. I see Martina here from Siege, and Siege is one of the fabulous organizations on campus that I frequently work with. I do quite a bit of work with El Centro. I do want to mention some of the fabulous DEI initiatives that we have on campus, including the Center for Africana Engagement. There's so many organizations on this campus that provide a sense of belonging and community for our students, but also for our staff and faculty. And I work very closely with those and support those initiatives quite a bit. Speaking of DEI, I would like to even mention, we've got so many phenomenal, and you mentioned athletics a moment ago. Even our track team and tennis team has so many international students on those teams that found a sense of belonging and community in the Bratsky Center. I think that so many of EKU's current DEI initiatives really need to be celebrated, continued, and promoted. And I do work across the aisles with those particular things, but also many other things. My staff and I have been working tirelessly with financial aid and student accounting services as we approach the summer term, because that's when we have so many study abroad students out and about in the world. And the financial aid and scholarship process for that is always, something that we all have to work together on, and is always fun. And I could go on and on, but I see that my timer is. Yes.
Well, thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Did any online questions?
No, but if anyone online has a question, feel free to unmute or drop it in the chat and I'll ask for you.
Scare me. Okay, so we'll go with another pre-registered question here. So again, starting with Jennifer, what do you hope to accomplish during this term of staff regent, and how will you achieve it?
This is such an important question. Protecting our benefits and increasing our wages is a huge issue. And yes, my opponent did sit on the board when they approved a 2% raise, which had been presented by the President's Council. But I would like to point out that 2% is very different looking when you look at the different pays of employees across the campus. So 2% for those employees who are lower earners is going to be nothing. And in our case, in the case of many employees here at EKU, that 2% was completely eaten up by rising health insurance costs. Whereas 2% for someone making six figures, that's, all of a sudden quite a bit. So I will absolutely be speaking out on those issues and making sure that pay equity issue has lots of eyes on that. That's huge. I would advocate for flat rate raises rather than percentage raises next time raises come into play.
Thank you, Jennifer. And Jeremiah.
So again, I think, what do I plan to accomplish during my term? is the continuation of these salary increases. And, you know, what some folks don't know is that Dr. Scott and I continually have these conversations about flat raises versus 2% raises. And yes, 2% raises for the upper echelon is a lot more than 2% for the ones at the bottom. But I also want to remind folks that we've invested $1.5 million in those lowest salary scales to lift those folks up. And it's sometimes in the last 2 or 3 years, if you talk to some of those folks, and I have, some of those mostly are in facilities where they've gotten $2,000 and $3,000 raises are life changing for them. And it's that money that I continually ask for in these budgets to make sure we lift those up. Not only that, they get that plus then the 2% the next fiscal year. So we are doing a lot with salaries. Do I think we can do more? Sure. But we also have to do it, as I mentioned before, strategically and sustainably, so that we're not having to go through the cycle of giving giving big raises, 5-10% raises, and then turn around and having to cut. We've actually had it where enrollment has increased the past 4 years, makes our life a little easier. The time that's going to be tough is when, and I hope never, that enrollment turns down, right? So that's when the tough decisions are going to have to be made. That's why we're trying to do it strategically, so that when that time comes, everyone continues to keep their job, the university continues on, and we are stable financially.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Do we have another question from the live audience? In-person audience?
Well, that's one.
Yes.
If you're elected as staff regent, how do you feel would be the best way for EKU to invest in staff?
Jeremiah, would be you first.
Well, it's like the dead horse, I keep beating it, but it's salaries. We got to do that. And not only that, we got to increase that professional development fund. Not only can we use those the tuition benefit for professional development locally. I say this all the time. We have a lot of subject matter experts on this campus. We need to utilize those. Staff council here recently partnered with what is it?
Workforce development.
Yeah, workforce development. So whenever we have classes making workforce development for certain topics, those are now free for staff. That's the kind of stuff we need to do. We need to increase budgets, operating budgets, so that we can send you to conferences, so that we can send you to whatever it is, Morgan, to make your life better, easier in the IT world. EduCalls, that'd be a great one, right? So that you can go see what other schools are doing, so that we can be the best for our students, for our faculty, to continue to push EKU down to bigger heights. So salaries, making sure benefits stay low. I can tell you that in terms of benefits, we get the 2% raise, and then we don't know the benefit cost analysis until September, October. So then having those conversations and making sure that the university eats a majority of that, and they do. They eat 95% of that. Most folks don't know on this campus, and I've told the president this, we need to communicate this out. We are self-insured, meaning every time you go to the doctor, that's money that's paid out from the university's budget. I'm not advocating for you not to go to the doctor. We want you to use those. But what I'm advocating for is a healthier workforce, making sure folks go use the gym, making sure you live a healthy life outside of work so that you don't have to continue to use those and you become healthier.
Thanks, Jeremiah. And Jennifer?
There's so many things to touch on with this. There's the professional development piece, and my staff will tell you, I'm a huge believer in professional development. EKU invested in my professional development. I feel strongly that all the employees should have that benefit. It certainly improves morale. We've talked about wages, we've talked about benefits, but I would also, like to touch on, some perks. When I was out campaigning in many of your offices, one of the topics that kept coming up was parking. If we're gonna, paying for parking permits and yet, all of the interior campus parking spots keep getting taken and you see that post go up and you're like, oh, man. And so, you're gonna have to park further away, right, off to the exterior of the campus. And you know what I'm talking about. None of us like it. That's a huge thing. So we're walking further and further and further, yet we're still paying the same amount for our parking permits. I think employees should get, free parking as a personally. There's some other issues too. It hurts, we are talking about, employee wellness. What about having, the first couple hours in the morning when the campus rec is open be free to employees so that employees could go use campus rec in the morning before work without paying? I think that would be fantastic. And as my opponent was mentioning, that would probably cut down on our health insurance costs since we're doing that. But yeah, there's so many things that we could do to improve the lives of staff, and staff council does some great work on that already. But we've got some additional work to do.
We do have a question from online. As Jennifer, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, just full disclosure in the interest of time, we've got about 5 minutes left. This may or may not be our final question.
As Jennifer stated, this position has never been held by a female staff member. How would you represent populations of staff that are underrepresented?
Right, and Jennifer, you have first.
Yeah, we've never had a women's staff regent. Isn't that crazy? And I watched the 2019 debates and they said the same thing. And here we are again doing it again. I truly feel that it is so important to have representation and to have diverse voices at the table. And I think that you should look at that anytime a university committee is formed. You should look and see who's got seats at those tables. That is super important. It's important on hiring committees. It's important in every single aspect of our lives at the university, because representation matters, right? And so I think there's so much work to be done in that. I think a woman staff regent, and this is your opportunity to right one wrong in the world, but that's just a start because we know we've got a long way to go on that.
And Jeremiah?
So I would express diverse views. Well, I think it's known, I don't care who you are, where you're from, what you look like. I advocate on your behalf, no matter what. And I mean that. So coming from a school down the road, Brea College, that has a very diverse student population, having been a person who studied abroad in the past myself, I come with many experiences. And so I've seen firsthand how lucky we are as living in the greatest country in the world and what we deal with here on a daily basis versus what other countries and other places deal with. So I bring that perspective with me, not only to advocate on your behalf, but to the board. When I think something's wrong at that level, I let them know. And I have that relationship with them to tell them. Because I can tell you that if you don't have the relationship with them, if they don't answer the phone call when you call, then your voice is not there. So I continue to advocate for all you all, no matter where you're from. Yes, I agree. There's never been a female staff regent. I hope at some point that happens, just not this year, right? So nothing against Jennifer. I hope that's the case. But I'll continue to fight for you, no matter male, female, gender neutrality, whatever it is. I don't care. We're all in this together. We're all in it for our students. And we're all in it to make this place better and to leave it better than we found it.
All right, and thanks to your very efficient answers, I think we can take one more question from this live audience, our in-person audience. We have one. No? We're good to close. All right. Well, can we give a round of applause for our audience?
Can I have one last thing?
One time.
No,
Closing-
I was just gonna
Closing
say,
comment.
I didn't I meant to, I didn't thank Jennifer earlier whenever I said my thank yous for stepping out into the spotlight. So I want to thank you for doing that. Not that I had the time to get out and campaign, but it did make me get out and campaign. But I appreciate you stepping out in the spotlight.
Thank you.
Put some remarks again.
And I'd like to thank my opponent too. This has been a fun campaign and it's been a great experience. And again, thank you to staff council.
Well, on that note, and to wrap things up, remember that staff council is both responsible and privileged to get to administrate this election. So polls will open next Tuesday and they will run through Wednesday. The voting will be through your My EKU secure portal. And that's your opportunity to let your voice be heard. If you have any concerns or questions for the candidates, feel free to email them or contact them directly, I'm sure. Questions about the overall election or accessibility for the website, please email staffcouncil@eku.edu. There's no period in there. It's just staff council that gets me every 2 weeks. Okay. And on that note, thank you all for your time and have a great day.
Yes.
This was fun.
It was. It was real.